Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I'm in coaching center. So today I'm going to explain your geography, the extended geography, second chapter, land, soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife resources. So in a small village in So in a small village in Tanzania, Africa, Mamba gets up very early in the morning. They wake up very early to get the water, and that girl has to walk a long way and return after a few hours. After a few hours, she have to return back. She then helps her mother in her housework. That girl helps her mother in her housework and joins. Then after that, she joins her brother in taking care of their goats. And all her family owns in a piece of rocky land. In a piece of rocky land, they are living, where they have made a small hut. And Mamba's father can barely grow some maize. So Mamba's father, he can grow some maize and beans, and this is not enough for feeding their family for whole year. So that maize and beans is not enough for their family to feed whole year. So next, Peter lives in the heart of the sheep rearing region in New Zealand. So in New Zealand, a person called Peter, he lives there by rearing the sheep, where his family runs a wool processing factory, making wool factory, one factory that makes wool. Every day when he returns from school, he watches his uncle who takes care of the sheep that have come to their factory by taking their wools, and their sheep yard is situated on a wide grassy plain. Their sheep yard is located with hills in the far distance. In the far distance, you can see some hills. Near that is grassy lands where there are sheep. So it is managed in a significant way using the latest technology. By using the latest technologies. Peter's family always grows vegetables through organic farming. Peter's family grows vegetable. Mamba and Peter stay in two different parts of the world. Both Mamba and Peter stays and lead their So they both are living in different places. Different is because of the differences in their quality of their soil, land, water, natural vegetation, animals, and the usage of technology. And there is availability of such resources is the main reason that their places differ from each other. Now let us first talk about the land. Land is among the most important natural resource. And it covers only about 30% of the total area. 30% of the total area is covered by the land in Earth's surface, and all the parts of this small percentage are not habitable. They are not used for cultivation only. The uneven distribution of population as you know, there is uneven distribution of population in different parts of the world. It is mainly due to the varied characteristics of the land. There are different characteristics, different types of land and climate, different climates you can see in different places, and so that's why there are various distribution of population in whole world. And the rigid topography or steep slopes of mountain, low-lying areas susceptible to water, and logging desert areas, thick forest areas are normally sparsely populated or uninhabited. They are uninhabited. They are populated because in the mountains you cannot do cultivation, so there's some population, some people lives there. Plains and river valleys offer suitable land for agriculture. So plains and river valleys, they are suitable for cultivation, agriculture, because they will get good water for cultivation. Hence these are the densely populated area of the world. So hence there are the densely populated of the words near the river valleys, so that they can carry on their cultivation near their lands. Now, if we come to the next, land use. Land is used for different purposes like agriculture for. So next is land use. So land is used for different purposes like agriculture, forestry, mining, building houses, roads, and setting up of industry. These are some of the commonly used for which we use the land. So can you list out the different ways in which Mamba and Peter family would use their lands? The use of land is determined by physical factors like topography, soil, climate, minerals, and availability of the water. Human factors such as population, technology, they are also the most important determinants of land use pattern. So land use selected countries. So Australia, where 6 croplands, 56 pasture, 14 forest, and 24 other use for land. 24% of all other use of land. In Brazil, 9% for cropland, 20% for pasture, forest, 66%, and other use 5%. So this you can read. Next, land can also be divided on the basis of private land and community land. So private land is which is owned individual, whereas community land, that is owned by community for common uses, for by community for doing some of the common uses like collection of fodder, fruits, nuts, and medicinal herb. For these use, these community lands are also called as common property resources. People and their demands are ever growing, but the availability of land is only limited. So the quality of land also differ from one place to another. So people started encroaching the common lands to build up some of the commercial areas, like making housing complex in the urban areas and to expand the agriculture lands in the rural areas. Today, the vast change in the land use pattern also reflect the cultural change, also show the cultural change in our society. Land degradation, landslide, soil erosion, desertification, they are the major problems on the environment because of the expansion of the agriculture and constructive agriculture. See, first in during older ages, people were doing like that. Now they are using tractors and they are very much big house. Before there were huts. Now there are big houses, roads, and there are no lands for agriculture. They are using no more big huts all over. You can see like this change in the land for our period. You can see in this picture. Next, conservation of land resources. So growing population and their ever growing demand. So as the population is growing and their never finishing demands has made a large scale destruction of forest and arable land and has created a fear of losing their nature. So that has created destruction of forest and fear on the people for losing their natural resources, and therefore the present rate of degradation of land resources must be checked, and afforestation, land reclamation, regulated use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers, and checks on overgrazing, or they are some of the common methods that we use for conservation of our land. Next, landslide. So landslide, they are some simply defined as the mass movement of the rock. The movement of the rock causes the landslide, and debris or earth down a slope. Earth comes down and the land comes down like a slope. The upper surface soil comes like a slope. They often take place in conjunctions with earthquake. It takes place where earthquakes, floods and volcanoes happens. A prolonged spell of rainfall. A more rainfall can also cause heavy landslide that can also block some of the flow of the river for some time. If it falls near the places like river, there is a river is located, and the formation of river blocks the form where if it falls in the river, the landslide, they may block the river, and also if it causes a river block can cause havoc. The settlements downstream on its bursting in the highly terrain landscape have been a if more landscape happens, it been major and widely spread. It is a big natural disaster that often strike life and property and occupy a position of very much big concern in the mind of the people. So a case study. So a massive landslide hit Pange village that is near Rekong Pio in Kinnour districts in Himachal Pradesh, and it has damaged around 200 meter stretch of old Hindustani type Tibet road, and National Highway 22 has been also damaged by this landslide, and this landslide was triggered by intense blasting in the Pangi village. There was a mining going on maybe, but due to that they were doing more blasting, so that's why the landslide has happened. Due to the blasting, this weak zone of slope collapsed. The weak zone that were in the mountain, it has collapsed and caused intense damage to the roads and nearby village. And Pangi village was completely vacated. They were given stop to avoid any possible loss of land. So by this they stopped by migrating them. They stopped the loss of life. Next, mitigation mechanism. So advancement of scientific techniques was empowered, and they used to understand what factor causes the landslide and how do we manage the landslide. So some broad mitigation techniques of landslide are like this. So hazard mapping, located areas prone to landslide. So where we have to locate the areas where the landslide can happen. In such areas we can provide for building settlement. So we can in such areas we can keep an eye by and if there is we may expect that landslide may happen, we can shift the people of that place to another place. So there may be no life and loss to life may not happen. Next, construction of retention wall to stop land from slipping. So construction of the wall. See, they have retention wall they have made. That has stopped in this picture. You can see that has stopped the landslide and increase in the vegetation cover. Increase in the vegetation cover. It is an way to arrest landslide. It is an effective way to stop the landslide. And the surface drainage controls works are implemented. They are used to control the movements of landslide with the rainwater and spring flows by this. So these are the measures you can take to stop the landslide. So next is soil. So the thin layer of grainy substance that is covering the surface of the earth is called as soil. It is closely linked to the soil is linked to the land, and landforms determine the types of soil on the landform. You say the types of the soil. Soil is made up of some of the organic material, minerals, and weathered rock that are found on the surface of the earth. And this happens through the process of weathering, and the right mix of minerals and organic materials make our soil very much fertile to cultivation. So first the parent rock, you can see first there will be parent rock, then weathered rock, then subsoil with sand, slit and clay, and after that you can see the topsoil with humans and vegetation where you can grow the plants and the other things. Now let us know factors of soil formation. So the major factors of formation of soil are the nature of the parent rock. So nature of the parent rock, how is the parent rocks, and climatic factors also depends on the climatic factors also. So other factors are the topography and what are the roles of organic materials and the time taken for the composition of soil formation, and all these differ from place to place. They will be different. Say we can see difference from one place to another place. So soil first is parent rock that has determined color, texture, chemical properties, mineral content, and permeability. Next is relief. At altitude and slope determine accumulation of the soil. Next, flora, fauna, and microorganisms that affect the rate of humus formation, that affect the factor affecting soil formation. Next is time, that determines thickness of soil profile. The thickness of the soil profile is determined by the time. Next, climate, temperature, rainfall, influence rate of weathering and humus. Next is degradation of soil and conservative measures. Soil erosion and depletion, they are the major threats to soil as a resource. So soil erosion and depletion, they are the major threat for soil as a resource. Both human and natural factors can lead to degradation of the soil also. Factors that are lead for degradation, there may be the factors like problems like deforestation, overgrazing, overuse of chemical fertilizers, or overuse of pesticides, rainwash, means acid rain, landslides, and floods. These are some of the factors that may affect on degradation of soil. Next, what are the methods we can use for conservation of soil, or what are the methods that can be used by us for conserving the soil is mulching. The bare ground between plants is covered with a layer of organic material like straw. So the ground between plants is covered with a material that is organic material that is covered with a straw. With a straw, like a straw, it is covered. It happens to retain soil moisture, so it should retain the moisture present in the soil. Next is counter barrier. Counter barrier, these are the stones, grass, soil are used to build barriers along with the contour. So we will be making the barriers around the soil with the help of stones, grass, soil, grass, so that the plant can grow easily. Next, trenches. They are made in front of the barriers to collect water. In the front of the barrier, the trenches are made so that it can collect the water for the that plants. Next, rock dam. Rocks are built up to slow down the flow of water. This prevents gills and further soil less. So, rock dam, they are where they build the rock around in the slope. They build the rock so that they can prevent the top layer to finish runoff of the top layer of the soil. Next is terrace forming. So terrace forming, it is made up on the steep slopes so that flat surface are available, so that you can get flat surface for the growth of the crops. Next, this terrace forming, it can reduce surface runoff and soil erosion. So here you can see the picture terrace forming. So it is made on the steep slope so that the flat surface available on the steep slopes helps for growth of their crop, and also it reduces the runoff of the surface soil, and also stop soil erosion. Next, intercropping. Different crops are grown in alternate rows and are shown they are sown at different times to protect the soil from rainwash. So intercropping means different crops are grown alternatively and they are shown as different types. They are grown so that they can protect the soil, the top layer of the soil, to get washed from the rain. Next, counter plogging. So plogging parallel to the counter of the hill slope to form a natural barrier for water to flow down the slope. So for plugging parallel to the counter to the hill slope, so that you can form the natural barrier for water, so that you can flow down to the slope, is called as the counter plugging. Next is the shelter belt in the coastal and dry region. In the coastal and dry region, you can see rows of trees are planted. There are very many rows of trees are planted, so that you can check the wind movement, so that you can protect the protect soil cover, so that you can protect the soil from the blow of the wind. So in the coastal areas, they may put the plant so that when the wind comes, the plant leaves fly in which direction the wind is going and how to protect the soil cover. They will get an idea. Next, after this, water. So water is a vital renewable natural resource, so you can renew it. As you know, more plenty, 78% of earth is covered with water. So there are 3/4 of the earth's surface, 3/4 part of the earth's surface is covered with the water, and it is therefore our earth is called as water planet also. It was in the primitive oceans that life began. That in the oceans there were life. First life was began in around 3.5 billion years ago. Even today, the ocean covers two-thirds of the Earth's surface. Two-thirds of the Earth's surface is covered by the ocean, and the ocean support a rich variety of plants and animals life in present inside the ocean. And the ocean water is, however, it is saline and it is not fit for our human consumption, for use of your human. There is fresh water is around 2.7% of fresh water is present in our earth. Nearly 70 to 72% of this water occurs as ice sheets and glaciers. You can find 70% of water is like ice sheets and glaciers, that is present in Antarctica and Greenlands and mountain regions. You can find these glaciers. Due to their location, they are inaccessible. Due to their location, they are available. You cannot use it. Only 1% of fresh water is available for us, so that which we can use for as human use. It is for that is the groundwater that is present that we can use, and surface water in rivers and lakes and as water vapor in the atmosphere, they are not available for us. So fresh water is therefore the most precious substance that we can find on our earth's surface, and water can neither be water can water can neither be it cannot be added or nor it can be subtracted from the earth. So therefore the total volume of the water, it remains constant. The water is abundance only seems to vary because it is constant motion. There will be motion in the water, so therefore the water level seems to be varies, but the volume of the water remains same. Cycling through the ocean means the water cycle and the air, the land and back again through the process of evaporation, precipitation and runoff. So this cycling we call it as water cycle. So humans use huge amount of water. We use huge amount of water, not only for our drinking and washing, but also we use in our production of some material, something, and we use water for agriculture industry, for generating the electricity through dams. There are and other uses we do by other usage of water we do. As there is increase in the population, there is huge rise in demand of food and cash crops, also increasing urbanization, and as there is rises in the standard of living the majority and many other factors leading for the shortage in the supply of the fresh water, either due to drying up of the water source or due to the water pollution happening. So an average urban Indian uses about 135 liter of water every day. It is an survey by which we understood we use 3 liter for drinking, 4 liter for cooking, 20 liter for bathing, 40 liter and 40 liter for flushing and washing clothes. Washing utensil is 20 liters, and for gardening 23 liters. Around 135 liters we use every day. So what are the problems we can face of water availability? Problems of water availability. So there is a scarcity of water in many regions of the world. You can see there is scarcity of water like in most of the parts of the Africa, Western Asia, South Asia, parts of Western USA, Northwest Mexico, parts of South Africa, South America, and entire Australia. Many other places are facing shortage of fresh water supply. And countries that is located in climatic zones, most suspectively there may become drought that face great problems of water scarcity, and thus water shortage may be consequently have some of the variation in by seasonally or by annual precipitation, or some of the scarcity is caused by over exploitation and contamination of water resources. Now we will learn about what all the problems happen if there is scarcity of water. Now let us know how to conserve the water. As you know, scarcity of water causes more problem, so we have to conserve it now. So how to conserve the water? So access to clean and adequate water sources is a major problem that we face in the whole world. We need clean and very good water. So steps have been taken for conserving the dwindling waters, conserving these waters. The measures have been taken. Even though water comes under renewable resource, as you learnt in your lower class, water comes under renewable resource, which is available for plenty of years, but its overuse and pollution make water unfit for us, and discharge of untreated or partially treated sewage, the waste from the factories and agriculture chemicals to water, and industrial effluents in water bodies. They are the major problems. They pollute water with nitrates, metals and pesticides. They cause pollution, and most of these chemicals, they are non-biodegradable. They does not degradable means they does not dissolve in water, or they does not mix with the soil. So therefore it reaches our human body. So water pollution can be controlled by treating them some of the suitably before some of the effluents, before we release them in our water bodies. So forest and other vegetation cover slow the surface runoff and replenish underground water. So water harvesting is another method that we use to save our surface runoff of water, and water is used for irrigating the fields, the canals, and should be properly lined to minimize losses by water seepage, and sprinklers and effectively irrigate the area by checking water losses through seepage and evaporation in dry region, and with high rate of evaporation drip or trickle irrigation is very useful, and the valuable water resource can be conserved by adopting these means of conservation. Next, natural vegetation and wildlife. Now we learned about soil, land, soil, and water. Now let us come to the natural vegetation and wildlife. So some school children were visiting an exhibition. They visited an exhibition that has handcrafts. The article in the exhibition was collected from different parts of the country. They collected the articles for that exhibition. a girl, she picked up a bag there and she exclaimed that this is a beautiful handbag. So yes, it is made from the jute, her teacher said to her. Do you see those basket lampshades and chairs? These are made up of canes and bamboos, her teacher said to Mona. In the eastern and northeastern humid region of India, bamboo grows very in plenty of bamboo or grown. And Jessie was excited to see a silk scarf. Another girl, was excited to see a silk scarf. So see this beautiful scarf, Jessie said. The teacher explained that silk is obtained from silkworm and that are bred on mulberry trees. So the children, they understood the plant provides us many different products that we use in our daily life. So by this example we meet that natural vegetation is most important. So where natural vegetation and wildlife exist only in the narrow zone of So therefore natural vegetation and wildlife exist only in the narrow zone of contact. It exists between the lithosphere, hydrosphere and the atmosphere that we all call it as biosphere. In the biosphere, living beings are interrelated and we are interdependent on each other for our survival, and the life supporting system is called as ecosystem. And vegetation and wildlife, they are very much valuable resources for us. Plant provide us the timber, make us shelter, give shelter to the animals, produce oxygen for us for breathe, and protect soil, so essential for growing the crops, and act as shelter belts. So help in shortage of underground water. It helps to stop the shortage of underground water. Gives us fruit, nuts, latex, turpentine, oil, gum, medicinal plants, and also the paper that is essential for our studies. And these are in so therefore there are innumerable uses of plants, and you can add some more if you know. So wildlife, it includes animal, birds, insects as well as aquatic life forms. So wildlife, they provide us milk, meat, hides, foods. So insects like bee, it provides us honey, as you know honey it daily you can hear. So help in pollination of flowers, and it have an important role that plays in wildlife plays as decomposers in the ecosystem. And the birds feed on insects, they act as decomposers as well. Vulture, due to its ability to feed on dead livestock, it is a scavenger and it is considered as cleaning the environment. So animals, big or small, all the integral to maintaining, they all help in the maintenance of our ecosystem. So do you know that vulture in Indian subcontinents were dying of kidney failure shortly after scavenging livestock treated with diclofenac, a painkiller that is similar to aspirin or ibuprofen. Efforts are on the ban of the drug for livestock use and breed of vulture in captivity. So we stop the death of the vultures. Next, distribution of natural vegetation. So you learned what is natural vegetation, but now how it is distributed. So the growth of the vegetation, it depends primarily on temperature and moisture. On temperature and moisture, the growth of the natural vegetation depends. The major vegetation types of the world are the forest, grasslands, scrubs, and tundra. In areas of heavy rainfall, huge trees may be thrive. So you in the areas where heavy rainfall happen, there you can see huge trees. The forests are thus associated with areas having abundant water supply. The forest that have abundant water supply, you can see. As the amount of moisture decreases, as the amount of moisture in the forest decreases, the size of the trees also decreases and their density also reduces. In the region of moderate rainfall, Short stunted trees and grasses and grow by forming the grasslands of the world, and in dry areas of low rainfall you can see thorny shrubs and scrubs growing. In such areas plants have deep roots and leaves, and plants have thorny and waxy surface so that they can reduce the moisture by transpiration. Tundra vegetation, that is a cold polar region that has mosses and lichens, the plants. So forests are, they are broadly classified into two types: evergreen and deciduous forest, depending upon their climate and other things. And depending upon on their climate and also when the plants shed their leaves. Evergreen forest the plants do not shed their leaves simultaneously in any season of the year. In any season of the year you does not see the plants shedding their leaves in the evergreen forest. In deciduous forest the plants they shed their leaves in a particular season so that they can conserve the loss of moisture by the process of transpiration. So these forests are further classified into tropical or temperate based on the location and on the different latitude the forest you can see. So you have learnt in details about various forest types in your lower classes. So distribution and the associated animal life in your previous chapter you have learnt. So today there are many more people in the world than there were 2 centuries back. So before 2 centuries there were less human beings, but now the population has increased to around 7.7 billion people are there in the whole world. So to feed to feed for the growing numbers, means to feed the growing numbers, large areas of forest have been cleared so that for growing the crops. Now forest cover all over the world and forest is vanishing rapidly, so there is an urgent need for conservation of forest. Next, how to conserve the natural vegetation and wildlife. So as you know, forest is our wealth. Plants give us shelter to the animals. Plants give shelter to the animals, and together the plants and animals both together maintain the ecosystem. So changes of climate and human interference, these can cause the loss of natural habitats. They can cause the loss of natural habitats for the plants and animals. Species have become vulnerable or endangered, and some are on the verge of extinction. And deforestation, soil erosion, construction activities, forest fires, tsunami and landslides, they are some of the human-made and natural factors which together accelerate the process of extinction of the great natural resources that are available on the earth. One of the major concerns is increase in the incidence of poaching that results in sharp decline in the problem may cause more loss of species, and the animals are poached for collection, and illegal trade of hides, skins, nails, teeth, horns as well as feathers. These also may cause the loss of the animals, the extinction of the animals. Sorry. Next, some of these animals like tiger, lion, elephant, deer, black buck, crocodile, rhinoceros, snow leopard, ostrich and peacock, these can be conserved by making awareness about that so that we can conserve it. So as you see, California gets fire rage in the 4th day, so you can see fire in the California still now. So this is also a huge problem. Next is national parks, wildlife sanctuary and biosphere reserves that can be made for protection of our natural vegetation and wildlife animals also, and conservation of creeks, lakes and wetlands. It is necessary for us to save the precious resource to get replenished. So there is a balance in the environment. If we have more number of species, and if we does not disturb the species so that they can do their work. Human activities in several parts of the world have been disturbed many habitats of that species. Due to the indiscriminated killing, several birds and animals they have been extended or have been worse. They have been still getting extinctions. So awareness programs like social forestry and Vana Vana Mahotsava should be started, so that should be continued, so that we can encourage about the religious and community level. School children should be encouraged for bird watching, and they should be encouraged for visiting natural camps, so that they can appreciate the habits of the various species. And many countries have passed many laws, and they have declared that the trade as well as killing of birds and animals should be illegal. And in India, killing of lion, tiger, deer, and great Indian bustards and peacocks has been banned. And international conventions, cities have been established that listed several species of animal and birds in which the trade is promoted. So conservation of plants and animals is an every duty of every person, every citizen of every country, as the birds and animals and plants are there. Due to them, we human beings are there. If the birds, animals, plants, they does not live, we human beings cannot live. So conservation of them is most important. Finally, what is biosphere reserve? So series of protected areas that we link through a global network intend to demonstrate the relation between the conservation and development of the biosphere. So here you can see some of the questions. So okay friends, this was your chapter, the land, soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife resources. So I'll see you in my next video explain another chapter of your 8th standard geography. Till then, take care, have a nice day, bye my dear friends.